Welcome to OG and Jesus, the podcast, where the oil field and blue collar meets faith, real life, and real conversations. Hosted by Casey Red Morris and Pastor Marcus Rosa. It's steel-toe boots, hard hats, long hours, real work, and real faith. Whether you are driving to work, sitting in traffic, or just needing real talk, this podcast is for you.
All right, man. What's going on?
You ready?
Yeah, I mean, if you're ready, I'm ready.
I'm ready.
Hold on, let me get this cool hat real quick. Got to represent and stuff.
Yeah,
if we're doing it, we're going to do it right.
That's right.
All right.
So, welcome to OG and Jesus.
Okay.
First episode. Might be a little scratchy.
Yeah.
But,
well, what is this going to be about?
So, I think it's time to for people to realize that a lot of us blue collar guys and workers, we believe in faith also. We believe in Jesus. And we don't show it as often, I think, as a lot of people, because we're supposed to be strong people that, we're the strong guys. We're the guys that live in the bars, get the tattoos, drive the Harley Davidsons, the big jacked up trucks, live on the wild side all the time. And a lot of times I don't think people see the other side of us, where we do share with a lot of different guys. I know for me, over the years, and I'll soon be 57 years old, and yeah, I've done a lot of stuff in my life that I'm not proud of, but I've done a lot of stuff in my life that I've learned from, and I've used it as stepping stones to make myself better. I come from a background of a military brat. I traveled. My dad, we moved about every 3 to 4 years. I think the longest place we ever stayed was San Antonio, Texas. Mm-hmm. I've been to Okinawa, Japan. I've been to Korea. We've been to the Philippines. I've been in the Orient. I've been everywhere. Yeah. And I think that just maybe some of my stuff that I've done in my life and some of the stuff that I'm doing now in life, I could help some of the younger guys and maybe even some of the older guys, that think they know everything.
Yeah, well, look, there may be some younger guys and older guys that just tuned in, but they're like, I don't even know who this guy is and stuff. And so I'll just introduce myself real quick because I'm here as a bystander. I'm just here as like, hey, man, let's see what's going on. And so my name is Marcus Rose. I'm a pastor here in Bogalusa, Louisiana, the big city of Bogalusa, right, at Westside Church. Man, you need to introduce yourself because I think a lot of those young guys and old guys, and the OGs, we'll be able to kind of figure out who you are. And so tell us about you, man.
So I'm Casey Red Morris, originally from Mississippi, Greenville, Mississippi. I claim San Antonio, Texas as my home, though, because that's where I lived most of my life.
Yeah. Now, hold on. Now, Red, is that like your official middle name, or is that?
No, that's the nickname I've had my whole life because of the red hair.
Now, you may look at them now and you're like, man,
I think a lot of the guys at work now call me White.
Yeah.
They don't even call me Red anymore. It's White
that's
now.
Good stuff.
But it's a different world.
Yeah.
Especially the older I get, it's a lot different.
All right. So you've traveled a lot of places, and I think a lot of guys can relate to that. I mean, you've been offshore how long now?
So I was offshore for right at 2.5, 3 years. And then at the end of 2015, I went to the land division.
Okay.
And I've been land division ever since. And I work in the Pennsylvania, Ohio, West Virginia area. And I did do a little 18 months out in West Texas. Uh-huh. So I've been on land now since the end of 2015.
All right. So we'll get into this whole idea of like, how that blue collar kind of lifestyle fits into a relationship with the Lord. And so you've been a lot of different places, but what about your faith journey? What does that look like? What pit stops have you made along the way? And
so I was always that guy that said, me and Jesus have our own thing. That I wasn't very open with my religion or with the way I believed in a lot of things. People would start talking about Jesus or God or stuff like that, and I just kind of push it to the back. Yeah. I had other things on my mind, other things that to me at that time were more important. About a year ago, 2 of my daughters had come to church with you and asked me to come with him, and I did. And I think it was the first Sunday I came. I was sitting in that pew and I was listening to you preach, and I kept saying, this guy's talking about me. This is me. This is the guy that hey, me and Jesus got our own thing. I don't need to go to church. I don't need to be involved in church. I don't need to read in my Bible. I don't need to, yeah, I know parts of the Bible just from being a kid and my mom and dad putting that in my life.
Yeah.
But I didn't truly start reading the Bible until last year. I get up every morning when I'm at the house and I read, and even at work, I try to get up early and read, at least, part of it, like right now we're studying the book of Mark, or we're going over the book of Mark in church, and I've read the whole book of Mark already. Now I'm in Luke, reading different things. But I find that, you preached a sermon the other day, this past Sunday, about temptations and stuff like that. And now that I've read Mark and the things that you were preaching about, it brings to life a lot of things that I've done in my life where, those temptations were there. And I was one that,
Yeah.
man, if I was tempted, I was going to try
Might as well
it.
give in.
Yeah. Might as well try it. I mean, what's it going to hurt? It's either going to kill me or make me, and there's always been somebody watching over me, because there's times that I shouldn't even be here, from some of the places I've been, some of the things I've done in life.
Yeah.
I should not even be here.
Yeah, and I think you haven't gone anywhere slowly. So so he got a big old white pickup truck right now. Drives or used to drive, or you still drive a Harley every once in a while?
Still got my Harley.
Yeah,
Still
so
ride it. I like to go fast.
Yeah, and so so that'll be good stuff. Well, and if you guys ever check out the church and stuff, we got a couple of roughnecks in there. Folks that have been through stuff. And as we kind of explore during this whole podcast time, we'll figure out some other things as far as like our stories and how they have woven together and tied together. But man, the reality is what folks will hear. I don't think you've got it perfectly down yet, and I definitely know I ain't got it perfectly down yet.
No. I cuss like a sailor.
Oh Lord!
Hey,
we're working on that one though.
That's a hard one for me, because if you're in the blue collar world, it's easily said, especially in the oil and gas industry. Sometimes I let my mouth.
Yeah. Well, and look, so I didn't grow up. I'm a military brat as well. Didn't grow up in a Christian household, and so and I realized, look, a lot of times folks talk and what may be it's a bad word. It's like it's just regular conversation. The Lord have to tweak and get a hold of that and all. But so we're just gonna keep it real and just have real life experiences and talk about folks and stuff, and so.
And sometimes, like I said, words slip out.
Yeah. Yeah. Now the good thing about being on the internet and being on podcasts and stuff, we can erase things. So we'll put a filter, because I don't want to get him banned and stuff. Get him kicked out of. It's a first time getting together, and so we don't want to get kicked out automatically and all. But well, look, as there's folks who are kind of watching, tuning in, they're like, man, I don't know if I want to check this out. What was your heart behind, and who was the guy that was in your mind when you were like, man, I know guys are out there, they kind of got a lot of free time where their mind just wanders. You kind of told me about that. Well, what are some folks that are really on your heart when you wanted to think about putting this together?
I think a lot of it was the younger generation, these younger guys, because I think they get into, especially in the oil and gas industry, there's a stereotype that those kind of guys, they make a lot of money, they spend a lot of money, they go to strip clubs, they go to here, they go to there, they drink all the time and stuff like that. And I think a lot of these younger guys get into the industry and they think they have to fulfill that stereotype. They don't know that they can still just be themselves and worship Jesus or worship God the way they normally have. They don't have to conform to that stereotype. Yeah. And I think a lot of times that younger guys do, a lot of guys are easily persuaded in our industry, and guys that come to work for us. And I don't think it's just in the oil and gas. I think it's truck drivers. I think it's carpenter, construction workers,
Yeah.
different factory workers, different things like that. I think a lot of times you set your mind at just, I don't know, you fall easily. I guess it goes back to the temptation thing. You see these guys that maybe they don't have a wife, they don't have children or something like that, and they can go and do what they want, and they don't. And a lot of these younger guys that are freshly married, freshly have new kids and everything, and then they get into this career field. They want to follow the guys that can go do it, that want to go do it, and then they get themselves in a bind.
Yeah.
So I just kind of wanted to reach out to really everybody, but the younger guys also, and let them know that, hey, you can still be faithful and do this job and have a good career, provide for your family, put food on the table, put money in the bank, and live a good life.
Yeah.
So
Well, the great thing is and those guys that are listening, man, the Lord loves him some roughnecks. I was gonna say rednecks. He loves them too. So, but he loves some roughnecks.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the guys in the Bible. They weren't just a lot of like sitting behind a desk kind of religious guys. These were guys that I mean, Jesus was a carpenter. Peter and James, John, those fellas were fishermen. I mean, these were
Right.
guys that they understood what it was like to work for a living, roughneck. And even Peter. Peter had a couple of cursing moments in his life too,
Right.
and so he was bad aim and all. There may be some guys in here that are armed at all times. He carried a knife with him, try to cut off that dude's. I think I tried to cut off his head, but he missed, and so he just ended up with his ear taken off. But so there's guys like that all throughout the Bible, and so a lot of guys are like, man, I can't relate to that Christian life. But the Lord is all about guys that are just going through things and have gone through stuff. I mean, that's his disciples. He picked those guys that were, not the ones that had all their life together. And so
Right.
I think it'll be a fun moment. I think it'll be meaningful for guys to kind of hear, especially your experiences. Because what are some practical stuff that you want to get into in the days to come? I mean, we won't cover all that right now, but
Yeah, I like to talk about, being away from home and managing things at home while you're 15, 16, 17 hours away, or half the world away. Because some of these guys, work, especially in the offshore, or they may work in the international. And so they're hours, even days away from home, and they still have to deal with not only work, but you have to deal with that family life too. You have to be able to do both. And you got to, hey, one of the things I want to talk to is I want to talk to an oil field wife or a blue collar wife that her husband is gone. Maybe he's a trucker and he's gone on the road for 2 or 3 days and he's not around. How does she handle that situation? Because I'm gonna be honest with you, you got to have a strong spouse at home, or you can never make it in this industry.
Yeah.
You can, man, you can talk to all of us guys, especially in oil and gas. How many times you've been married? I've been married 2 or 3 times, or I'm on my fourth marriage. And then you finally find that one that loves you for who you are, that supports you for the job you do, that is there, that can basically, she can hold her own
Yeah.
at the house. Now she might need to call you for a little advice or say, "Hey, what do you think about me doing this? This is what's going on, but can I do?" I want to talk to people like that.
Yeah.
I want to talk to these older guys that's been in the industry, or whatever industry they're in, factory, whatever it may be, that have been in there for years, and how they've been through the ups and downs, but still stayed faithful and steady on that line, and
Yeah.
they weren't the guy that pretended and did everything. Because I think a lot of times guys get lost and they got to put that front up in front of everybody else, but then they're another way behind closed doors,
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it deals with stress and the things that we do in our jobs. So those are some of the things I want to talk about
Right.
and discuss with people.
That'd be good, man. Y'all need to start making some better marriage choices and stuff, so yeah, yeah, believe me. Yeah, so I mean, I think it'll be real practical. But I think one of the things that Red's noticed in his own life is man, that relationship to the Lord. You called it OG and Jesus. All right.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? How do you bring those worlds together?
So the OG and Jesus, it was an eye catcher too when I first thought of it, because there's a lot of us that are in the oil and gas industry, and probably a lot in other blue collar jobs, that don't have a pretty background, a pretty life behind us. And yeah, some of us were considered OGs.
Yeah.
The original gangsters.
There you
We,
go.
we we did the things that a lot of people didn't think about doing. That no, I can't do that. That's against the law. But
Yeah.
we've been there. A lot of us have been there and done that. And so not only did it oil and gas, but then when you break it down to just OG, hey, we are some of the OGs. We are some of the guys that have been around and done it all.
Yeah.
And we've survived because most of the time we should either been locked up somewhere for the rest of our lives or we should be in the ground.
Yeah.
And somebody protected us. Somebody was right there beside us, and we didn't even want to think of that.
Oh, yeah.
You know.
Well, so in the days ahead, you'll have some conversations with some guys that have got various life experiences. They'll be sitting in this chair. Red will be a constant, continuous. Just look. You need a white bearded fella in your life and stuff.
Yeah.
And so that'll be good stuff. So in the days ahead, I think on a practical note, folks will they'll just get some information and then they can decide, man, if I'm gonna listen to this OG. And listen to OG is one thing. Hopefully, in the end, though, you guys will learn how to how did Red learn how to listen to Jesus? And so so we're trying to bring them two worlds together, just what's going on in life and all. And so
Exactly, and I want people to hey, reach out, call me. I'll put you in contact with Brother Marcus or whoever you want to talk to. We can get you that help. We can let you because I think we suppress a lot of things. I think we're so set on providing for our families. When I grew up, it was taught that the man is the provider. The man provides for his family.
Mm.
One point in my oil and gas industry, I got told that I wasn't going back to work. That they were having to lay me off. I had a superintendent, and we'll talk about him later. But this superintendent called me, and he said, "Give me a few minutes and call me." Well, I've been home for 2 weeks. That Tuesday night, before I was supposed to go back to work Wednesday morning, that's when I was called and told that I wasn't going back to work.
Mm.
I've never been fired from a job. I've always had another job before I quit a job. When I took my job in the oil and gas industry, I was told by a person I was working for that I would never make it, that I couldn't make it, that I would be back. I never went back.
Yeah.
I made it. When that superintendent called me, I had already put in 20-something applications that Wednesday morning when I got up. I left home and I put in 20-something applications. I think it was like 22 or 23. I was either told that I was overqualified or that they couldn't hire me right now because the industry was going down, the oil and gas industry. So I was lost. My mind was back to the OG days. I was thinking of things that I could do to make sure that my kids weren't at home anymore. It was just me and my wife. My kids were grown and gone. And our son was in the military. We had a daughter that was married and had children. We had another daughter that was married. We had a daughter that was in college. But I still had to survive.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know because I'd never been faced with it. So I started thinking about things that I shouldn't have been thinking about. And even my wife called me that same day and she's like, "Hey, what are you doing?" Everything. And I had to tell her, I said, "Look, I love you, but now is not the time to talk to me."
Yeah.
And I hung the phone up. And then that's when the superintendent called me and he said, "Hey, give me 30 minutes and call me." So I reached out to him. I actually waited 45 minutes because I didn't want to rush. He said 30. I said, "I'll give him 45. So I called back and he said, "Hey, man, I need you to go back to work. Now you're going to take a cut in pay, a major cut in pay, but I need you to go back to work because I don't have anybody that knows what they're doing as far as it comes to payroll and it comes to reports and permits and different things like that." And he said, "And give me 2 weeks and I'll find a way to keep you working." And hey, the Lord was on my side because he found a way for me to keep working.
Yeah.
I never got laid off. I continued to work and I have been with this same company now for 13 years.
That's good.
And it's a lot of things that happen in life that I think we suppress. I think we push back as being the manly man, the man of the family, the household that has to provide.
Yeah.
And I think we all handle that different. Some of us handle it to where, man, we might turn to drinking, we might turn to drugs, we might turn to whatever it is to suppress that feeling,
Yeah, not deal with it.
right,
Yeah.
and not deal with it. When I think, now that I've been coming to church faithfully, I've been reading my Bible and reading things, and I see in the Bible that, hey, this is me. These are things that, like you said, you just said it yesterday. If you follow the Bible, if you read the Bible, it's telling you what to do. It's telling you how to live.
Yeah.
It's leading you and guiding you in the direction you need to be going in. My marriage seems stronger. My relationship with my kids seems stronger. I mean, it's just my attitude at work is better with younger guys. I'm not short fused anymore. I sit and talk with them now, and you wouldn't believe the young guys that once I opened up and told people, hey, I got saved. I got baptized this time home. Me and my wife both.
Mhm.
You wouldn't believe the guys that had actually come talk to me, and we start talking about the Bible and
Yeah.
Jesus and different things like that. It's just like, it's unreal. I never knew that it was like that.
Yeah. And you could probably look back at, if you would have thought back a year, 2 years ago, and been like, yeah, this is what I'm going to be doing. This is where I'm at in life. You probably wasn't thinking that was going to be the step that you were going to be taking in life.
No, no, by no means. I
Yeah.
mean, my thing was to keep working until I could retire.
Yeah.
And I tell all guys all the time. They say, "Hey, Red, when you going to retire?" I said, "Probably at about 11:30 on the day of my funeral.
There you
I'll
go.
stop working and go jump in the casket and be
Yeah.
buried." But now it's like it's like I have so much more to live for.
Yeah.
More time.
Oh, definitely. And I think for those guys who, Red kind of mentioned, guys who've struggled with their marriages, struggled with, it might be addiction, it might be just the way of trying to take the edge off, some relief and all. And so you've tried a lot of different ways. Red didn't get here overnight, but it's definitely one thing that the Lord just, it almost seemed like a light bulb kind of turned on.
Yeah.
All right. And then the Lord worked it out. I would want to leave some guys with this word of hope in Romans 8:28. And some guys, you might want to check that out in your Bible and all, but don't take my word for it. Check it out for yourself. But it says, man, that God will work. We're talking about working
Right.
guys. God will work all things together, not just the good things, but man, we've had some bad and ugly things in life too.
Right.
And God will work all things together for the good of those. And it gives a qualifier for those who love God, who've been called according to His purpose. And so you may have some stuff, man, why didn't this work out? Why did I have to wait for that 30-minute phone call? Why didn't I'm struggling with possibility of losing my job, my family, my career, and how does all that fit back together? But man, there's hope in the idea that God he's still at work.
Right.
And so for guys that understand what work looks like, it ain't easy. It doesn't just happen overnight, but that idea that God is working, even right now, even in those times that like you said, man, I should be dead or in a grave or, in jail somewhere. But even in those times that God just gave you another breath, another chance, another opportunity.
Yeah. And I think that's what it was. Now that I look back at it, now that I've been reading in the Bible and reading things, it was Him showing me there's better things to be doing than what I was doing.
Yeah.
And that, yeah, I was doing wrong, and He was stepping in to stop what could have happened to me.
Yeah. Now, if you think about, all right, so if there's three things, man, just three struggles that you can already think about, that guys and ladies and families, wives as well, that may be listening right now. Three things that a lot of guys like yourself, myself as well, may deal with, because I wanted to give an idea, just to kind of throw some bait out there for following episodes. Just some things that guys were like, man, these are things that guys really, really deal with right now that I'd really want to, or maybe a question that they have that I want to help give an answer to. Are there some things that are on your mind that, like, man, we need to deal with this right now? We ain't gonna deal with it in this episode because we're gonna have to get you back in a minute. But what are some of those things that you like, man?
I think the one thing that probably the main priority that I think we deal with all the time is providing, is being that provider, being the strong mind, the strong hand that's going to provide for our wife and our kids and our family. And I think a lot of guys, because we all got bills. We all got either a house note or rent or car payments or anything like that. So we've got to, in managing that, the ability to do that and to live a normal life. I
Yeah.
think that's
Well,
one of the
well, let me
things.
interrupt. Have you made some bad financial choices?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay, good.
Hey, I don't. Yeah, I. My wife will tell you, I don't save money.
Yeah.
I don't think about a rainy day or anything like that. I think about if Casey wants it, Casey gets it.
Yeah, and I have a feeling some of those guys that are in a financial worry may be in that same boat, right?
Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
and he's told me some things like, and I think it'll be important for you too, like that you've learned some things along the way from an OG perspective, where you look now at all that the Lord's given you, and you look like, man, that's crazy that
yeah,
what God has provided.
Yeah.
But I think you probably made some bad choices, so we want to learn from that, and then some good choices that you've made along the way of kind of dealing with some practical things, but also in a relationship to the Lord and some things working out, right?
you think about, if you think about all the money you spent in your life, and coming from my perspective, and I think the blue collar side, if I had all the money that I spent on alcohol, if I had all the money that I spent on going to bars, if I had money that I spent on toys
Mm-hmm.
and different things like that, man, I'm 57 years old. I could have done been retired
Yeah,
and just traveling and living life. But now, prices continue to get higher. Electric bill continues to get higher. Different things you've got to, man. It all revolves around money. It comes back around to money.
yeah,
And a lot of guys, that's why we do what we do, is because it's good money. It's definitely. I never dreamed that I would be making the money that I make.
yeah.
You know, I was told by my algebra teacher in high school. I had a buddy of mine that sat right next to me, and we sat in the front row because we had to sit in the front row. We were made to sit in the front row, and we were told that one day we would be the two smartest guys in prison. And that's what he told us. He looked me dead in my eye, and I'll never forget his name. His name was Mr. Jones. He was a cafe motorcycle racer. The cafe style
Yeah,
bikes and
yeah.
everything. That's what he did when he wasn't teaching algebra. And he told me and Tyrone, he said, "Hey, you guys will be the two smartest guys in prison one day." And we just kind of laughed at him. We just kind of looked at him and laughed at him. Just by chance, we've both been to prison.
Yeah.
And it's just, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if y'all heard that and stuff. He said they both been to prison. So, Mr. Jones, you were prophetically right, but the end result is that that's not the end of the story. And I think you've got a lot of parts of your life that would tell folks, hey, that's not the end of the story.
That's right.
And so you've been in prison. You've been married one time.
No.
We'll get into that. All right. You've been flat broke at times.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
And so we could add up all the different things. But he's out here sitting here trying to help you because of some things that he and the Lord have kind of learned along the way. And so money and marriage and just real life mechanics of getting life together
Yeah.
will be some things that we'll be talking about today.
And I think we can explore that a lot. I think those are three of the things that people struggle with a lot.
Yeah.
And I think there's guys out there that can that we can all benefit from listening to and learning from.
All right.
So,
Well, do this then. Give one final word to that guy who's listening in, just to let them know, hey, this is what we're here for. This is what I'm here about, and just talk to them directly for a second.
man, I think it's strong people need God, man. You got to have God and Jesus. You got to have it in your life. If you don't, you're lost, and you'll stay lost. You You can't make it without him. You can try. You can try because I've tried.
Yeah.
And I tried it for a long time. And it not only it doesn't hurt just you, it hurts your family, it hurts your kids. It's devastating. It can be devastating, and some people don't know how to get out of it. And I want to be that man. If you need somebody to talk to, call me. You can get a hold of me anyway. Call me, message me, email me, whatever. I'll help any way I can. That's what I want. That's what I want in life. I want to be able to help people. I want to be able to show them there's better things out there. And I know it's rough, man. I've had to sit. I sat on the steps of a church one time with a buddy of mine. He's real close to me, real close, and we're like brothers. And well, we are brothers. And I had to tell him. I said, "Man, you're messing up. You're messing up." Pain pills were getting him, and that's been probably 7 or 8 years ago. And he just told me 2 weeks ago. He just told me. He said, "I think about that day all the time that you sat right there on that steps of those church, and you told me that I was screwing my life up and I was messing my life up, and my wife was right there with me, you know." And he's a different person now. He's just different in life, and that's what I want. I want people to be able to reach out to me and people to be able to help me. Me and my wife would help anybody, man. I used to have kids just come and sit on our front porch and talk to us and BS with us and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's the kind of people we are. I don't meet a stranger.
Yeah.
Even if you don't know me, we'll get to know each other.
Yeah, so obviously, some of you guys are going to be in places where you can't just come and like sit on his porch and all,
Right.
So, and he's got a bunch of chairs. I've been on his porch and stuff. He got that little wooden porch, and he got a bunch of chairs around there for you to be able to hang out. But there may be an opportunity for you to leave some comments below, in this podcast, or if you're watching it in different social media moments, for you to leave a question, because I think those questions, Red wants to really get into those specifically. If you got it. We want to go through and answer those things and be an opportunity for folks to you sitting on a porch with Red, but the reality is we just going to have to do it in this little format. So,
and I think that's where you come in very beneficial to that. I mean, listening to you preach and the way you talk to people, you put it on a level that guys like me, we know what you're saying. We hear you. It's just like you also say, do we take it and digest it? Do we eat it and digest it, or do we just let it go in and go out?
Yeah.
And I think there comes a time in your life when you have to really stop and listen.
Mm-hmm.
And you really have to listen to what I tell guys all the time. I tell leaders all the time, managers and stuff like that. I tell them all the time, do you really listen, or do you just listen? Because we all just listen. Now, I don't have the best hearing. My wife says I can't hear, but maybe that's selective hearing.
Selective, yeah, that's what they say.
But do you truly listen to what people are saying? And since I've been coming to church and listening to you, you keep my attention, and you don't just tell me the good things, you tell me the bad things too. And that's what I need to hear. And I think guys like me, that's what we need to hear. We need to hear the bad along with the good.
Yeah. And, and if there's some guys that have listened this long, I'm trying to figure out, how long we've had this recording going. If they've been listening this long, it might just be that God's like, hey, you've held on this long because you're in a place where you're ready to listen.
Right.
Sometimes you got to be in that place where it's like, all right, I'm finally ready to kind of check this out and listen to what the Lord's trying to tell me. And so you might be in that place, and so it might be a good opportunity that, what you're going to hear in the next couple of episodes might just be the Lord using practical, daily, roughneck advice, but from the perspective of, hey, it's OG and Jesus, and then you just got this the Hawaiian along the way and stuff. So I'm gonna ride with you as long as I can. So so we're looking forward to what the Lord's gonna do, man. It's I know the Lord placed it on your heart, and so it'll be a good opportunity in the days to come. So he's spoken to you. Hopefully the Lord will use that to speak to you as well.
You want to close us out in a prayer?
Man, I will. Let's do that. All right. Hey, if you're watching and stuff, bow your head for 2 seconds. I ain't going to keep you long. All right. So let's pray together. Father, thank you for this time. thank you for the men and women that are listening. But God, we come because we know just how many times you've rescued us from the garbage we get our lives into. But God, I thank you for your grace. I thank you that you use folks who are messed up, who've dealt with stuff, and that you dig a deep well and bring us out of a lot of pits that we've fallen into. But God, I thank you that even today you've got a purpose and a plan for us. Thank you for what you're going to do through Red's life and his family. Thank you for this time together as just friends to gather in your name. So, Lord, we love you today. We thank you and we give you all the praise in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
You going to wave to him and stuff?
Later.
All right. We'll see y'all soon.
Stay strong. And until next time, thank you for listening. Please hit the like button, subscribe, and share. Remember, no matter where you are in life or faith, you are not alone. Strong people need God.